You are not going to believe how much it's cost the council to close Rufford Ford. Hi, I'm Adam C, and yes, I am back here once again at the infamous Rufford Ford. 1 year on since I first came here to film those viral videos to give you the information that you want about this Ford, what has happened, and more importantly, what hasn't happened since it was closed. Rufford Ford is fed by Rainworth Water, a 12.5-mile stretch of water that includes lakes, various rivers, and Rufford Ford. The mill here was built in 1750 on the Rufford estate, and in order to provide energy to the mill, they had a water wheel. To feed the water wheel, they created a dam that made the lake up here that flowed down through past this roadway, and it wasn't deemed deep enough to require a bridge or tunnelling, thus creating this ford. And that's how it stood for centuries. But in recent years, it's been better known for the entertainment it's provided through the millions upon millions of views on YouTube of cars trying to cross the Ford at its highest point. Right now, it's not that high at all and will cause limited issues for most cars. But during the winter months, when the rainfall is heavier, that is when it did. Many of the regular YouTubers that were filming here actually began filming 4 years ago, but it was only last year that their videos really started gaining traction. And then, as I mentioned, 1 whole year ago, about now, I came here for the first time to try and put my own spin, bit of commentary, and film the cars as well. Then it got busier and busier. More and more cars would come down and try to see if they could cross the Ford. And most of the time, if you're sensible, you can. But it was that lack of being sensible that perhaps was the demise of this Ford and the reason that it's still closed to this day. I first came here on the 8th of October 2022. I came here 3 times to make 6 videos up until December the 2nd, which was the date that the council decided alongside East Midlands Police and the Nottinghamshire Police that they would close the road for the safety of the general public. So they weren't concerned about the cars that were breaking down and genuinely destroying their engines. No, the closure was meant to be temporary and still is a temporary closure of the Ford until they found a more permanent solution for the safety of the driving. So rumour was they were going to put some speed bumps down. Initially, they said they'd put some rubber bumps down onto the road and see how that works. If it works effectively, they would make a more long-term solution based on speed bumps. Also have rumour about double yellow lines going down because the police in the council did not like the cars parking up and down the road to spectate, even though there's quite a sizable car park literally a stone's throw from where I am stood now. There was also rumour of them narrowing the roads to slow down the traffic further, but as you can see, none of that has happened whatsoever ever since it was closed on the 2nd of December last year. Rufford Ford has been left completely and totally abandoned, and that has had a detrimental effect on some of the local area. But as you can tell right now, it is a relatively peaceful area. The residents that are right next to the Ford were very annoyed at the people turning up, the cars parking on the banks, and the driving that was taking place. The wedding venue at Rufford Mill were also annoyed at the screaming kids enjoying the cars driving through. Not the best thing for when you're hosting weddings or talking to brides and grooms about their big day. And of course, people in the comments of watching the videos that they chose to click on, knowing exactly what they were about to watch, decided that they were annoyed at the stuff that they were watching, even though by clicking and watching those videos they were no better than people turning up and watching them in person. But we forget about those people. They're just weird. You can actually see evidence of the angry locals if you look very carefully. So these signs are meant to be opened and closed for when the Ford level is too high to pass through. So obviously when it's too high, the signs are opened to say the road is closed. And this hole here was put in apparently by one of the residents to lock this so it's fully open, so the Ford was fully closed forever, so no one would attempt to pass through. They wouldn't allow anyone to try and close the sign again to say that you can go through even though it's safe. You also have evidence behind me. There are fences over the other side of the path because that's their land and they didn't want people on their land. So they put a barbed wire fence in there as well to prevent that from happening. This is the Rufford Mill courtyard. You've got the wedding venue to my right, and over my left shoulder used to be two shops that have since closed now that Rufford Ford has been closed. There's new shops in their place, but I know that the wedding venue wants this to be an entire wedding courtyard dedicated to wedding-based materials and suppliers. So could the demise of those shops be as a result of the closure of the Ford and the fact that now we have no passing traffic down this route whatsoever? There is a detour that means you can get from there to there, but it's an extra few miles, and there's a golf club over there, so all the golf club traffic would now have to do the detour, which is a very residential route. I was actually followed by one of the council vans on my way here, and then after you go through the residential route past the Rufford Ford closure sign, we have a very narrow country lane that looks like is also affected by flooding water because the surface is just awful. But what has happened recently is this temporary closure has just been extended to June of next year, so they've got till then to sort out the problem, unless of course they extend it once again. Now we do have some intelligence from the councillors and other YouTubers as well, and some figures about the higher cost about these bollards. So basically what it has cost the council to have this road closed since December last year. And you'll want to hear this, it's quite an extreme level. But before we do any of that, I just wanted to give you a walk around to show you what this site looks like now that it's been closed for that long. It's been completely abandoned and now is a derelict Ford, maybe the only one in the country. So obviously the banks have overgrown, the ones by the bridge, that's a given. You got concrete bollard, we've got the plastic bollards, these are all on hire. The road closure sign is bent and has fallen over. I was going to put it back up again, but it's bent so it can't. You've got two cones, they will have to be hired. There is actually a dead rat underneath me. I won't show it because that would be rude. And then you can see it's quite shallow at the moment. So when the local dredged the banks to help with the problems it was causing of being high, what he did is make it lower so the driving through the Ford was faster, and that actually created the danger that forced this to be closed. Further up there is a Ford in the way, I'll go there, but it's a bit overgrown as well, and it's just all very, very sad and sorry. And always you get people passing by on bikes, pedestrians, dog walkers. I've been here for over an hour and we've had no one here whatsoever. Apparently they're going to maybe put some barriers over the sluice gates, or the weir, I've never known how to pronounce that. I don't know whether that will happen, but that's rumour that they're going to do that, because cars would drive up there just as something to do and maybe get stuck. So, I mean, that's a good thing to do. Yes, barricade that off, but continue the flow. So over the bridge we go, and you can see the barricades that the local has put up, and a new barricade. This is definitely brand new. Danger, do not climb. Well, I was going to joke about how easy it is to climb and jump over one of those, but I've still got a slightly broken foot from my recent galloping over a fence. So yeah, that's a good sign. Anyway, down here, more overgrown plants and weeds in the Ford's area. Oh, I slipped. My bad foot's not doing well. So yes, we've got planks of wood that have just been left there. I don't know for how long and why they are there. 3 more concrete barricades and some more plastic ones as well. A couple of cones. So these will all be hired for all of these months that it's been closed, and it's just been left here. Nothing has been done, and I've tripped over once again. So it's obvious that they've not really bothered doing much about the fact that this is closed, and they haven't seen much of a problem, but it has caused problems. It's caused closures over there and a lot of detours that the locals have had to get used to. Even the residents down this road, if they want to come this way, they're going to have to go all the way around, and vice versa for those living down there. It is weird to be back at the Ford and seeing it in this current state. Very shallow, but very, very quiet. However, I've just noticed this has all been renovated. This looks fairly new, so they have put effort into rebuilding this wall, maybe ready to start doing some work to the Ford. I mean, that doesn't look very good, but the rest of it has had a little bit of work spent on the rebuild of the wall. So maybe there is some plans in the council's office. We haven't managed to get much information out of them, but there are some surprising figures and maybe a hint as to a reopening sooner than you think. Just noticed this fence used to be up. It used to be there. It's now been taken down. I'm guessing that all of this is that fence. Yeah, that looks like it. So the fence is now in here, and this is the final scene, the resting place of Rufford Ford, and a sign that's not quite facing where it needs to be. But we come back to the topic of these bollards. So the council would have had to hire these from a company. They don't just have stock lying around. They're going to have to pay for the hire of these bollards since December the 2nd of last year. Now we've called up the hire company, and to hire the concrete bollards per week is £22 for one. There's 5 of them. For the plastic bollards, that's £5 a week, and there's 8 of those. So £110 for the concrete ones, £80 for the plastic ones. And what that means, to put it into basic principles, is since the closure of the Ford, if they've hired these for every single week from then, that's £4,600 for the concrete bollards, £1,700 for the plastic bollards. That totals £6,300. Over £6,000 for the hire of these bollards. I don't think they put the bollards in straight away, but it's going to be in the region of £6,000 for the hire of these bollards. And they have just extended the temporary closure till June of next year. That's not quite as long as December, but that's going to be maybe about 2/3 of that value. It's going to be well over £10,000 in the hire of these bollards to have this road closed due to what has happened. Now, we did have a member of the council drive to us a little bit earlier, and we had a chat with him. So in a little bit, I'm going to tell you some intelligence that he told us about the opening of this Ford. But before I do that, this is Midlife Crisis 101X talking to us about what happened here on the run-up to its closure. So when did you start coming to Rufford Ford roughly? Like how long ago was it?
It's got to be about 3 years ago.
3 years ago. So you've seen quite a change in the atmosphere of this place. I suppose last year was when things started changing and more attention and more views.
Yeah, so the views picked up. There's a lot more attention. We started to get coverage on radio. ITV came down, BBC came down.
We're saying that short form video might have been responsible, because on like TikTok you can just upload a phone clip and it will get millions of views. So was there a trend as soon as the TikTokers started coming?
Yeah. I did an interview with the Guardian newspaper.
Yeah.
And again, it highlighted the problem with TikTok. So originally, do you remember when you came down, we had enough room, we could run up and down the bridge, we could move around, nobody'd get in the same shots as everybody else, we could all be spread around the Ford. The more and more TikTokers came, the busier it got. You'd always see, because they'd always got the phone in portrait.
Yes.
It then got to the point when we couldn't film, because there were so many people on the bridge that then got their mates to come down, drive through and make the splashes, that it was so difficult for us to film.
Yeah.
And it then just snowballed from there.
And then December the 2nd, we all found out that was it.
No one knew it was going to happen.
No.
We just turned up here one morning, where we're standing at the moment, and there was a police officer here, and they closed the road off.
And that was it.
And that was it. And they had a police officer on duty 24/7 every day until these bollards arrived.
Wow. So on your channel, and Ben and Tom as well, you've tried other Fords in the area, so you're still keeping the content alive?
Yeah.
So there's a few roughly in the area, or is it all around the country now?
We're going all over the country. So we've got Beanford, which is local to here. And then we've done Welney Wash, which is quite a famous one. That's almost a mile of road that floods. Although we love it here, we've actually then got to go out. We've met lots of new people. We've gone and seen new Fords, travelled all over the place with it. But we are hoping this will reopen.
Oh yes, absolutely. And we do have a bit of information about that, so thanks for letting us know a bit about the history of the influencer. Do you call yourself an influencer? I don't call myself an influencer. Videographer's opinion of the Ford. Let me tell you about what we found out whilst we were here about the future of this Ford. So, where are we? Rufford Ford. Businesses have been shut, and we've also heard that one of them might be going again, because literally there's no one here. There's my car over there, Chloe's car. we've got the Land Rover, and that's been it. We've seen no one else whatsoever other than the councillor that pulled in about half an hour ago, and we had a chat with him. The golf course down the road, apparently that's been affected because people can't just drive down the road to the golf course anymore. They have to do a detour, and they've noticed a change since December. Now we've got the bollards here. They've cost over 6 grand for hire, and apparently at some point, no one will know when, we don't know when, the council haven't decided when, and this is just rumour, this is just hearsay, this is what we've heard. Maybe, just maybe, one day the barriers will softly disappear, slowly and quietly disappear, and it will be open once again. There'll be no announcement, of course, but people are going to realise, and then slowly, does that mean that Rufford Ford will be back as it was? Apparently there's no plans to have speed bumps, there's no plans for even double yellow lines, no plans for a narrow gap to slow down the traffic. There's no plans, and you can see because it's been left abandoned. They might just do a soft reopening, hope no one realises, but people are going to realise because this is a worldwide, I'm going to try and say it, phenomenon. I think, is that the right word? It's a worldwide Ford. And as a result, people are going to know. So maybe, just maybe, one day, Rufford Ford will be back as it was, and I will bring you with me for when that happens. But for now, I hope you enjoyed that update about Rufford Ford celebrating a year since I came here. Maybe in the winter, maybe on December the 2nd, I might update a best of compilation of my clips from this Ford. So follow me on all my social channels for updates, highlights and pictures of when that might be. But for now, thanks for watching. So I couldn't give you a video without any actual content, so I'm now in the disco. Haven't driven a disco before, haven't driven through a Ford before. Let's hope the speedo works.
Send it.
Send it?
Yeah.
Here we go. Oh, I forgot to put the window. Oh, we're fine. We're dry! Yes! Goodbye, fridge.